Process that an association would work is that they have a groomer, which I'm sure many of our viewers have seen. There's sometimes tracked vehicles, or
Sure.
sometime I thought I saw like some big John Deeres and some
Yep.
big Ford
Exactly.
four-wheel drive tractors.
Yep. So
and then what do they pull? I didn't.
They pull what's called a drag behind it, and it's usually anywhere from 8 to 12 feet wide, and it's usually about 25 to 30 feet long. And involved in that drag that they're pulling along are a series of cutter bars and mixers, because we found through research from the Keweenaw research that when you take snow and mix it up and move it around, and then put it back down and smooth it, it will harden back up into a nice hard trail.
Wow.
Kind of like if you use a snowblower in your driveway and the banks all get hard after that. That's exactly the same premise. So we do that, and those vehicles and units are bought by the clubs, and there's a cost share program again with the state, and then they're reimbursed for their time to actually go out and groom the trails.
Now the clubs buy those on sort of a voluntary basis, and I've been to the Snow Spiders in the Traverse City area. They've had a pancake breakfast and a fine meal and all, and so they sort of save up. And is there any part of their grants money they can get those things through too? Or?
Yeah, they have to actually basically come up with about 25% of the cost. And you know, if anybody has checked out John Deere tractors or any of the big track vehicles, they range anywhere from about $80,000 on up to $150,000. So it's quite a large dollar volume that these clubs have to invest, you know, to go in and make those trails smooth.
So after these clubs have done all this work, what's a typical, you know, the snowmobiles like up north? I mean, when we were on the trail and like near the Tequamanet Falls, I was just amazed by the number of sleds that were out there in the middle of the week.
Certainly.
Is there any particular time that's more popular? Or?
Well, it used to be the weekends were the busy time, and now it's getting to the point where with farmers and retired groups, they seem to be hitting it more on the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So now you have the weekend warriors that are Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then the next group comes in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the next group kind of comes in on early Thursday and leaves on Saturday. So it's kind of a full time. We have in Michigan just under 400,000 registered snowmobiles in the state. And then we estimate that there's roughly another 100,000 come in from out of state and use our trails.
Now, so as far as the states in the union, is like Minnesota a bigger state, or is Michigan one of the bigger states?
Michigan is the #1 for registered snowmobiles, but not the #1 for trails. Minnesota and Wisconsin both have more miles of trails, but we have more snowmobiles, which makes it even seem more concentrated out on our trails. And the reason we have more snowmobilers coming into Michigan is because we've got the greatest product in the world, snow. Where the UP is pretty much guaranteed snow. Northern Michigan has great snow usually through the year, and then again down the west side.
Now, in the national trends, are there like caravans that start, let's say, out in Montana and then come across the UP, or?
You know, there are some groups that do that. Not a lot. You know, there may be groups that leave Wisconsin or Minnesota and snowmobile into Michigan, or lower Michigan and go up through the bridge, across the bridge into the UP. Pretty much, though, you know, in the old days, there used to be a lot of caravans that would, you know, for a record setting to start on the East Coast and went to the West Coast, and that still is being done to an extent, but it gets really to be a logistical nightmare unless you're retired. So.
When we were up in Sheboygan, and I can't remember last year, Senator Thomas and I were there at this little restaurant out in a very rural part of Sheboygan County. And they were telling me that in the economics perspective, snowmobilers bring more dollars into some of these rural communities.
No doubt.
How does that work?
Well, you know, right now, snowmobiling in Michigan is over $1 billion a year industry.
Is it $1 billion?
$1 billion with a B, over $1 billion a year. And that's based on our economic impact that we did in 1998. So, you know, it's even bigger now. The dollars that come in, we're actually able to show that in the Upper Peninsula, winter tourism is a higher dollar volume than summer tourism. And that, you know, and that kind of reflects on the rates. If you go up to the UP and went up and looked at it, tried to get a room, you'd find one somewhere around $59, $69, $79 a night. In the wintertime, those same rooms are $99, $109, you know, and so it's supply and demand pretty much. But, you know, right now in Michigan, golf is the #1 tourism recreation for dollar-wise. #2 is snowmobiling. And that was done by the Michigan Yep.
Yeah,
and
they do a great job. That tourism.
They do. So it just goes to show you the dollar. That the average snowmobiler spends about $150 a day, and that revenue turns over 7 times in a community, and the state always gets their hit.
Yeah.
So
well, that's $1 billion times 6%. That's a lot of money.
That is definitely a lot of money.
Now, go through the trails that we have. Specifically, the 37th district, as you know, is Chippewa, Mackinac, Presque Isle, Sheboygan, Emmett, Charlevoix, Antrim, and Grand Traverse. So kind of talk about the trail system that's there.
Well, we have a great network of trails. I mean, just going from the UP right now, if you want to start at the bridge, you could go from the bridge and head up toward the Sault Ste. Marie. You could head over toward Trout Lake and over toward the Newberry area, or head over toward Manistee. From that same area, you could head over to Cedarville and on to Drummond Island. And if the ice was good, you could even go over to Thessalon, sign in with the payphone people over there, because there is no customs you go through. It's for a telephone, and then you come back, So that's a great trip.
So people are actually in the wintertime, they go across to Canada, and
you go across the ice to Canada. It's marked by a tree line, so it's safe. So some Canadian has marked it. And when you get over there, there's a pier with a payphone on it. It says U.S. Customs call. So you go up to the payphone, call, give them your serial numbers of your sled, how long you're going to be there, and then when you come back into Drummond Island, there's a customs house there that you stop into also. So that kind of takes the eastern UP, and like I said, there's kind of 2 sets of trails, one on the northern part of the UP and one on the east, on the southern part, both going east and west. In the northern lower,
I assume the UP has some lake effect issues like the northern lower.
Definitely so. If you look at take a M28 across the UP, pretty much north of that gets heavy lake effect snow. We're talking 150 to 200 inches a year. And then south of that gets a little bit less, but still, it's still good snow. Any snow is good snow.
That's right. That's very true.
But in the northern lower, we have some great routes in the northern lower. We have some ones that are needed. You all know the Gaylord to Sheboygan piece there.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that and the history, and Representative Elsenheimer and Casperson and I have been working hard on this.
Well, the Gaylord Sheboygan, there was no real good route. There's a lot of private land through there, so we really didn't have a good route to get up through that way.
So to get Sheboygan now, you either got to go someplace over to Rogers City, or someplace you probably have to go through Petoskey
up to Mackinac,
and then back down.
Yeah, Lansing to Mackinac and back down. And there was a railroad grade that came up for sale that the department was going to purchase from Gaylord, which is a great bunch of trails in Gaylord, and this would have connected Gaylord right up to Sheboygan on a railroad trail. And there were some deals made to along Mullet Lake, a lot of expensive houses. There were some deals made within the Department of Natural Resources that if snowmobiling wasn't allowed on that 12 miles, they would find us another route. So that deal was made, only the other half hasn't been completed yet. We go up to Indian River, and there's not a trail from Indian River to the east to Sheboygan yet. So hopefully that'll come to fruition here in the next year.
Well, as you know, both this has been something that I've been passionate about for several years, and working with your organization. We now have the boilerplate that mandated a trail to be found by the Department of Natural Resources.
And that's good. I understand that, and we needed that movement for you to help us along.
And in working with our colleagues in the House, we've got some hearings, and we've been certainly in the background trying to push the Department of Natural Resources to get something put together.
In there is state land that can be done with. I mean, that's the whole reason that the deal was made to begin with. When you look at a map and you see the green land, the green property that was state-owned, there should be no reason why we shouldn't be able to put a trail to the east going over there. So, and we have some other issues. As we're on private land, those lands, especially when they get closer to towns, are being bought and sold and developments put in. So it's getting harder and harder to get those routes into the facilities that we want and to spend our money in the town. So what we're doing right now is working together and we put together a Snow Country Trails Conservancy. And through that conservancy, we're going to try to attempt to buy easements to be used for snowmobile trails in the wintertime only. And everybody says, well, why didn't you do something for the bikes, and why didn't you do something for the hikers? And it just gets very convoluted when you're trying to talk to a private landowner about getting permanent access across this property from March or December to March versus year-round. And that's typically those pieces aren't being used.
Where are some of your challenges as far as getting easements?
Traverse City would be a good one.
Yeah, sure. Well, think of the growth.
I mean,